Aditi is a very slim hope that she calls in. We want to get her thoughts on where we're starting. Deshaun Watson not speaking to the media yesterday. When we talked to Aditi earlier in the week, she had every expectation that he would be made available to her and the CBS crew. She's doing the game in Houston on Saturday ahead of their broadcast. That's customary. The teams always bring the coaches and the quarterbacks, and they have a conversation so they can be more educated on the game plan during the game. I'm assuming that is still going to happen because everything we're hearing, and Jason, you can talk to this, is that even though Deshaun wasn't made available yesterday, which was a shock to some, he will speak before the game. Tell us what you know.
Yeah, I was asking around yesterday, so does this mean he's not going to talk until post-game Sunday? I was told, no, he is going to talk, which leaves today or tomorrow. The Friday news dump type thing makes a lot of sense. Just wait until Friday. But the Browns are going to open the locker room here in about 10 minutes.
So we'll know soon.
I heard he may speak today.
And
right. I was hearing yesterday
and then
for
he just
sure.
wanted to practice first, supposedly, before.
And that's understandable.
Yeah.
I want to get something from you, Jason. You've been the beat guy that covers all of these things. How rare is it for a starting quarterback to not be available to media on Wednesdays?
Very rare.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
I can't recall. I'm sure it's happened. I mean, I did the NBA for 10 years, but the last 4 I've been in the NFL world. I can't recall the quarterback not talking.
I don't either.
Unless he's hurt, obviously. But even if he's hurt, then the replacement
Well,
talks.
it's usually if he's hurt and he's taking treatment at that time.
Yeah.
Sometimes they'll use that as an excuse. I thought it was – I was surprised because not only did Aditi say that, oh, no, the Browns aren't going to do that. That's not who they are. They're going to make him available. But we also talked to Mary Kay Cabot. She had every expectation that he would be made available on Wednesday. And I was also told from some media members yesterday that there were members of the national media that were in.
Oh, lots of
with every expectation that he was going to talk yesterday.
Are you saying we have her now?
We got her right now. She has 10 minutes. Let's bring her on right now. What's up, Aditi?
Aditi, what's your reaction to Deshaun not speaking yesterday?
Can you see the weight on my shoulders right now? Do you see this?
Yes, we can.
Yeah, I know. It's a stressful week.
I said this on the radio earlier that I wake up at 3 a.m. usually with anxiety, and I awake my husband and I say I'm having a panic attack. Last night I did it at 11 before I even went to sleep, and I said, Matt, I'm having anxiety. I don't. So, yes, it is disappointing that Deshaun didn't speak yesterday. I still believe that he's going to speak before the game. We certainly, as the broadcast crew at CBS, have every expectation that we are talking to him in the production meeting, which is he is the starting quarterback. Right. I don't know how we could possibly do the game without speaking to the starting quarterback. Every single week of the season, we have spoken to the starting quarterback for both teams of the games that we're calling. Even last week, we had a Texans game. We had a Dolphins-Texans game. And we didn't know who the starter was until Friday. We talked to Kyle Allen on Saturday. So I think Deshaun will talk. I do think that the Browns are very, very good, Jay, at hitting it head on and not allowing speculation to percolate. Maybe Deshaun wanted one extra day. I mean, this is not it's not as if this has never happened before. I remember earlier in the season when Kenny Pickett was replacing Mitch Trubisky. I think he spoke on a Thursday and not a Wednesday. So again, I sort of want to say there's a lot that this game is fraught with, and especially in calling the game. But let's not see conspiracy where there isn't necessarily conspiracy.
No, that's a very good point. That's a fair point.
I have confirmation. Deshaun Watson is speaking today.
Okay, great. And that will be in minutes.
Confirmed.
That will be very
About
soon.
10 minutes, 7 minutes.
All right, so I'm sure, and we'll do this as we get them, but as he makes comments, we'll be monitoring the press conference. As he makes comments, we'll be turning them around for you. I don't know if we'll do that in graphic form, but one way or another, we'll tell you what it is that he's saying to these questions. And I'm glad to hear that he is going to speak today. I think it's a good idea to get it out of the way sooner than later. Jason, I think you were the one that said maybe he wanted to get a day's practice under his belt. That's understandable, too. But I do think there's a piece to this, Aditi, where the Browns, there might be a little concern on their end how he's going to handle this because – in the past, let's be honest, he hasn't knocked these news conferences out of the park.
So I think that there's one thing here is that he should not hold back when asked about what he's done to knock off the rust, if possible, of 700 days of not playing, what he has felt about handling those first team reps, how he has reacclimated himself into that locker room as the leader of this offense and sort of as Jacoby Brissett has seated. All of those things you should expect full answers on. He can always say, because he does still indeed have 2 civil lawsuits pending against him, right, that he is not at liberty to talk about those issues any further or right now. And he can also say that it is, quite frankly, patient doctor privilege that he can choose not to talk about his treatment
1,000%.
And the mental health treatment. He can leave it at the fact that third-party psychologist had to give reports to the union and the league, who had to sign off on his being eligible to return this week. Right. He can stand on that, and we can all be disappointed. To your point, we can say, well, he didn't knock it out of the park. He didn't address this. He didn't do that. But he does have a valid reason of saying, hey, that's my private health care. I don't need to get into that. And he can also say, I've still got lawsuits pending, and I've been advised not to address that right now, or not to talk about that, or I can more fully speak to that when all of that is put to bed. So, we can all want something. There are many things that I wish I could hear from him, but that doesn't mean that I'm going to hear them from him.
And that's what I would do,
I think we should just temper our expectations there. I'm sorry, Adam, I cut you off.
It's not just valid that he can do that. It's smart that he should do that.
That's what I would do. I wouldn't talk about it anymore. He has talked about it already. There's nothing he's going to say, nothing that can make anybody happy. I get it. As media members, we'd like to hear more. As a fan, the Browns fans, by and large, don't care about it anymore, whether we like it or not. And so if I were him, I would just say, hey, listen, I've talked about it before. I've said all I can. I'm not going to talk about it anymore. Let's talk about football. I think that's what he wants to talk about. I don't know how that's going to go if he tries to do that.
Aditi, if you were there today and you were given the luxury of asking the first question, and I've thought a lot about this myself, and I've asked a lot of media members this same question that I'm about to pose to you. What is the first question that you would ask, under the idea that that's the most important one you feel he needs to answer?
I'll ask one that I won't get an answer to. I mean, I just told you that he's got such an out to say, look, I really just want to talk about football. But as a human being, not even as a reporter, as a human being and as a mother, and it's funny because, small segue, my son is now all of a sudden into football cards. And he's always asked me, Mommy, is this person your friend? Mommy, is this person your friend? Mommy, do you like this person? As a human, I don't want to be conflicted in who I'm rooting for. And I don't like the idea of just rooting for laundry. So therefore, I would want to know through this process, as you've been away from the team and as if you've undergone this intense mental health counseling, treatment, what have you learned? What do you know now that you didn't know 6 months ago? What do you know now that you didn't know 2 years ago? I won't get an answer. I won't.
Right.
But I would want to at least pose the question. And I would also feel, to Adam's point, we will be attacked. If we don't, as media members, even address that piece of it and only stick to football, well, then you're getting attacked. You're getting attacked either way. Right. If you ask the question, Adam, you're getting attacked, and it's, hey, this is a football game. Ask him about Kevin Stefanski's offense and the RPOs and the bootlegs.
Right.
And if you only ask him about the RPOs and the bootlegs and what he can do with this offense and what it's like to throw to Amari Cooper and hand off to Nick Chubb, well, then you're going to get attacked. Hey, you're ignoring all this other stuff. So at some point, you just have to... What is it that you're curious about?
Right.
I want to know more about him as a man. And I've said this, and I said this to you guys, I think, earlier this week. I don't know how he's going to handle that pressure of Sunday because I don't know him well enough. I don't know if he's going to step on the field Sunday and think he has to win the Super Bowl in his first drive.
Right.
You know, it's kind of like my very first sideline hit for CBS. I had to keep telling myself, you're not securing a 20-year contract on this first 20-second sideline hit. Like, it is a marathon. It is not just this one hit. Yeah. But there's that pressure, everything that's attached. What is he trying to justify all of it in that first drive?
Yeah.
And
we
how
know
does
you
he
have to
manage
get back
that?
to your CBS call. We're very grateful that you took 10 minutes for us because I know you squeezed us in with all your other duties. So go back to your CBS. Thank you for your thoughts. I think it's very insightful. And listen, forget the panic, forget the anxiety. At the end of the day, you are the person for this job. You're going to nail it, kid. Go get him.
Jay, thanks so much. Thanks, guys. And I look forward to talking next week.
Yes, we can't wait till you join us next week.
All right, so the story of him not talking yesterday is now irrelevant.
Yeah, it is, because he's going to speak soon,
Yeah.
and we'll have some comments. I'm curious your answer to that as somebody who journalistically thinks about these kinds of issues. You have one question with Deshaun Watson. What is it that you most want to know?
Honestly, she stole it.
Did.
Have you learned anything? Is there anything that have you changed at all? Is there any, because he's never going to admit to what he did.
No, he has steadfastly denied any wrongdoing, and he will continue to hold that ground. That's why
Is there
I'm with
anything
you.
he could say that's going to make anybody change their mind?
No.
Yes.
We talked about that on Monday.
Because I had a conversation with someone about that yesterday. Here's how he could change people's minds. My opinion.
Yeah.
He hasn't said these words yet. If I egreged anyone, if I behaved anything other than gentlemanly, if I made anyone to feel uncomfortable for that, I am truly sorry.
Yeah, but that's people say that all. If I
hasn't
offended,
said
that's
that,
but
Bull.
that's not enough. Here's what he could say that
No,
I
it
think.
is, Bull. It's fair.
No,
because
here's what I think he could say. I do think there's something, but I think he has to go a step further than
Okay.
that. If he actually feels this way, and he said this, if he said, "I've thought about some of these interactions with these women, and I think there were a couple occasions where maybe I put them in a tricky spot."
But, Bull, he steadfastly has maintained every time asked, I've done nothing wrong.
I hear you.
So I can't expect him to say that.
I'm
if
not.
he
I'm
thinks he hasn't.
definitely not expecting him to say that. I don't even know if that's the case.
Yeah, so I wouldn't want him to cop to something that he didn't.
100%. If he doesn't
You're
really
saying
feel that
if
way.
he indeed
I'm
has
saying,
thought about
let's
that.
say because there's been, listen, I think when we hear about these situations, we always jump to conclusions. We make our decision. We could say, let's leave it neutral, but we all jump to conclusions
We
based
pick our
on what
camp,
we hear,
and rarely
right?
do we switch sides.
Right. And the truth is, as we've said a million times, that only these women and him know what happened in each particular situation.
Right.
Nobody else knows for sure what happened. I think I've thought it's possible all along. I don't know. I'm just saying it's possible that there was a situation where a massage can be a little intimate.
Sure.
Right? Even in a totally.
Well, you have a woman putting her bare hands on your bare
Exactly.
skin. Yes.
And there are some times where I could see it being possible that a man in this situation could cross the line, okay? Not to the point where it's criminal,
right?
but to the point where it makes somebody uncomfortable.
Sure.
Or
That's
it's just not
essentially
appropriate.
what I'm saying.
And then maybe if you're someone who grew up in a small town and women have been throwing themselves at you because you're a big football star, maybe you don't even realize you've gone too far.
Right.
Because in other situations, people have just been like, and maybe now, and I don't know that any of this has happened. I'm just saying I think this is possible. And maybe now he's looking back and saying, after all I've been through, maybe I shouldn't have done this or done that.
Right. Who knows? Maybe
Again,
he will.
I don't expect any of this to happen.
I
I'm
don't
just
either.
saying
Yeah.
that would be one thing he could do if that was actually the case. That some people might say, okay, maybe he has learned, or maybe he,
Or he's saying, I don't got to stand trial for no regular people. He as a man, I done went through my 11-game suspension. I took 11. Who gives a damn about what you think or you think or you think? I don't owe y'all nothing.
He may say that.
You got my money.
Right.
You took 11 games away. I couldn't say stuff at certain times. And then to look at, let's be honest here. See, the way the media works is, he's the puzzle. But the second they said 10 people were showing up at that press box, we should have been like this. What the hell are you doing, Busby? What is this?
But we were saying
No. Not like to the point. Come on.
We questioned it yesterday. I said I think the move is dirty.
What I'm talking about is totality, the whole thing, everybody. Ain't nobody been on TV or no ESPN, no Fox talking about why would you bring 10 victims to a game to reinsert trauma. People have been saying,
but
watch
that's
this.
not as egregious a thing as somebody potentially sexually abusing women.
But watch this.
Yeah.
Let's talk about it. He's not allowed to talk about none of this stuff, right?
Yeah.
What happens if Deshaun Watson just ended up accidentally at one of these people's sons' games? What if accidentally it was a soccer game and Deshaun Watson just so happened to be at the soccer game with one of these people's parents or victims or anybody in their sphere? People would go crazy. They'd say, he's stalking these people.
But he's the alleged.
Yeah, he's not the alleged
victim.
But when you talk about NDAs, you talk about what you're supposed to say, what you're not supposed to say. You both sign off and say, listen, we're not doing none of that. We're not speaking about it. And then the lawyer says, well, we just want to be visible. Let's just show up.
So your contention is
show up in his place of work.
When they got, this is something that I hadn't thought of, and that's a good point. It's an interesting point, and let's talk about it. When they got the settlement, the cash, and they signed the NDA that said they weren't going to talk about the settlement in public, now they're showing up at his place of work,
job.
which, by the way, is a public place.
Yes, I get that part. It is a public place.
Jason, do you think that crosses some kind of a line?
I didn't like it when I first heard it. I didn't like it at all.
I don't either.
But at the same time, listen, I've had issues with Tony Busby in the past.
I think it's really dirty on his behalf.
I mean, and then
We had it out on the radio.
And then not to mention, he advertised it. And then not to mention, the last accuser was completely fraudulent. Let's be clear. Her thing got thrown all the way. She was completely fraudulent in her claims against Deshaun Watson. So the part that Deshaun Watson is saying, as a man who's been not convicted of 2 grand juries, as a person who, one judge who you said, let's listen to her, gave him 6 games. They extended it to 11 games. You took the 11. You paid off the settlements. Everybody said, pay them off and just get it done with. Now you done did that. Now they showing up at the game, and then you wonder why he don't want to talk to nobody. He like, listen, kiss my ass. I'm not talking to nobody.
But here's the thing, G. We were discussing what he could do to change minds.
He don't care at this point.
Well,
he shouldn't.
Maybe so. But I'm saying if he wanted to, I was just saying what he could do to change minds.
I know, but gee, I understand what you're saying. He shouldn't, he doesn't care what other people think. He's served his debt. Now let's turn the page. When convicted criminals come out of prison, the thought is they've served their time. Let's start anew. And you're not going to relitigate the crime every single time you turn the corner. But in the court of public opinion, we do that.
Yes, we do.
We do that. When you're a convicted felon, even when you're out, you're a convicted felon.
True.
And he's not convicted, and he wasn't even indicted.
Right.
But I do feel like there is some import for him to pay attention to the court of public opinion, because the one thing, the biggest misstep, the biggest banana peel that tripped him up the last time was his refusal to, and now an innocent man shouldn't show remorse. So I can understand if he did nothing, why he would stay in there and say, I'm not remorseful for anything. I didn't do anything wrong.
But that's impossible to believe that he did nothing.
It is, because the league has spoken. The investigation that was the most in-depth to what happened determined that he was over the line to the point where he would be suspended 11 games. So I know it's tricky. He can't come out and say that he's sorry because there's 2 pending cases. But the court of public opinion is still a thing. And they will kill him if they don't get the right answers.
Not to mention, hold on, how is this? Hold on, I thought the Texans got sued too. But you bring them back into the luxury boxes? You just got sued for the same thing Watson did. Nobody. I need to hear those questions. Why would you bring accusers and victims?
Well, I don't think the Texans are bringing them. Didn't they buy?
No, it's Busby.
Busby bought the suite.
He bought the suite.
Here's the thing: it's a publicity stunt.
Yes,
because if it wasn't, he wouldn't have made it public. And
of course it is.
They are props, and that's what I hate about it. If they are indeed alleged victims or actual victims, the fact that their lawyer would use them as a prop in a publicity stunt makes me sick to my stomach.
And then for all the people
they've agreed to do it.
And for all the people that have been sexually assaulted, have been through trauma. I can never, I got a wife. We all got wives. You think I'm going to some game?
Well, we can't speak for that. We don't know.
I'm speaking for me.
What about this? What about the victim statement?
Yeah.
Is a thing, okay?
Yes.
When a relative of a deceased victim from a murder trial, at the end of the sentencing, that is cathartic and therapeutic for the family to stand in front of the victim and say, you know what? You may have taken my son or my daughter or my spouse, but you didn't break me. Maybe This is cathartic and therapeutic for the women as well.
And that's why I want to be very careful with where we're taking this thing.
Yes.
Because I agree with a lot of what you guys are saying, but the only people, what Bull said earlier, the only people that know what happened is the women and Deshaun. That's the only ones who know for sure. And if these women are victims in some way, then you heal how you have to heal. And if that means showing up,
that's their equivalent of a victim statement.
It's not like they're going to see him. But listen, it's not like they're going to see him. They're going to be 500 feet up in the air. They're never going to be face to face with him.
I 100% agree with that. Listen, if you got a right to stand in front of your accuser, it's a public place. The lawyer did it. It don't matter if I agree with it or not. But here's another thing: Deshaun Watson also has the right to say, you know what, I don't want to talk to y'all today, and I don't want to talk about this, and I don't want to talk about that, and I don't want to talk about that. And
well, to an extent, there is a responsibility and an obligation that players, particularly quarterbacks, have to speak to the media.
Right.
I want to talk about
football. He doesn't have to speak about the off-the-field stuff.
He can absolutely say, not answering that football question.
And he is going to speak because he's speaking today.
Yeah. What time does the availability start? 11:30?
He should be talking 11:15, locker room open.
Okay.
He should be talking within the next 5 minutes.
Well, I know you'll be scanning social. When you see something, you let us know what he's saying.
Would you be surprised if I really want to see if he does speak about it?
As somebody who lives this and does it every day and works in it, I was talking to someone on our desk at the Athletic, and I said, I'm done. I have nothing else to ask on this. I've written the columns I wanted to write. I addressed this. I have nothing else to ask. It's time to get back to covering football. And that's not trying to be insensitive or dismiss what happened. But
just what else is there to say?
I got a team to cover.
I always used to tell the desk and assignment editors and even executive producers, handcuffs, newsroom, touchdowns, sports department.
Yeah.
I used to hate when that line, and it happened to me a lot in Columbus when I was covering Ohio State.
Sure. Yeah.
One notable story I remember, Tommy Hoying, the younger brother of Bobby, was arrested on a DUI. And the clique at that time was Bobby Hoying, Mike Vrabel, Luke Fickell, Matt Finkus, Ryan Miller. I was friendly with Ryan Miller. We had just, we had a lot in common. We had a friendship, and it was very difficult for me. They would send me out to the Woody Hayes facility for a noon show, and they wanted me to break the story that overnight Tommy Hoying had been arrested for a DUI. And I did not want to do it. I looked in the newsroom. I said, there's 10 reporters here that can do it. You're the sports guy. I said, yeah. It's a sports personality, but it's not a sports story.
It's not even someone on the team.
And by the way, he was a backup quarterback at the time. He was on the team.
You're right.
I know.
But he wasn't. You're right.
So they made me stand at the Woody Hayes facility and say that Tommy Hoying was arrested last night with a DUI, and I took my medicine. But man, as the players started coming into the Woody Hayes facility to practice, I wasn't fearful for my safety. I knew that they weren't dumb enough to do anything. But I heard it from all of them. All of them. The hell you do, why are you talking about that? That's not a story. That's not even a story. And
yes,
I didn't disagree with them.
No,
it is a story.
Not for me. It's not a sports story.
Right. But things have changed, obviously. When I started doing sports talk 21 years ago, whatever it was, I rarely talked about stuff off the field. You didn't know as much. In those days, and now
but when there were big stories,
but this Deshaun Watson story, obviously we've talked about it. At this point, to me, there's really nothing left to say about. We know as much as we're going to know at this point.
Yeah.
By the way, Amari Cooper's speaking right now. So.
Okay, so he may be next. He may be last.
Watson is one of 4 players scheduled to speak. It's Cooper, Watson, Taki, and Bitonio. Those are the 4 players scheduled to speak today. So Watson is not first. He may be second, third, or fourth. As soon as he does.
Did Browns put out a list of who was going to be speaking?
No, that was from some inside sources back here.
I was just wondering if they listed them in that order. Maybe it's likely that that's the order they'll come out.
And by the way, I would love, just for me, I would love to see him take the challenge of speaking. I would love to see him take the challenge of saying, let's answer this question. Because I think it's a certain thing. Communication is very important because communication controls your narrative. People, like Aditi said right there. Aditi says, I don't know him. I don't know how he's going to handle pressure. I don't know because I don't know enough about him. And when you have handlers, and trust me, and I don't like the word handlers because that's disrespectful to me. When you have people who are in your sphere that are helping you, manage your image, right, and what to say. My thing is, it's more powerful coming from you. So when you do get it right and you are in control of your own narrative and you speak from your heart, but you can also weave and tap dance and say, well, I can't talk about that, but I'll do as good a job as I can explaining
But are you
myself.
confident that he can do that based on what we've seen so far with him?
Well, I wouldn't, but he's been gone a long time. He's been gone, 3-4 months? And one of the things that I've always wanted to see was, hey, let's get with some of these image consultants. Let's get with these.
I hope he's undergone more media
Let's
training.
get with the media training so everybody can do it. It's just about putting the practice, the time, and the energy in. He is a very highly intelligent individual if you hear him talking about football. The way he talks about the game at a different level in the quarterback position is special. I know that cognitively it's there. It's just about putting the time, energy, and effort
Never
into
feel.
it.
The truth of the matter is, some people never feel comfortable standing in front of a microphone.
It's
intimidating.
intimidating.
I always harken back to Ricky Williams, who was terrified.
Yeah.
Absolutely had a phobia of speaking publicly to the media, one-on-one interviews, anything. He just did not enjoy it. I can understand it.
Corey
if Deshaun
Kluber was horrible doing it.
Corey hated it too.
Hated it. And supposedly in the locker room he was great. Like, look, everybody,
Right, but we never got to see
Did you cover
that
him
side
much,
of it.
Kluber?
Briefly, a little bit.
Yeah, we never saw that.
He was like
side
a
of it
robot. He
because
barely said anything.
I interviewed him a number of times, and after
he was terrible.
every single interview, I just
But
thought
Bieber's not very good either.
Someone's got a remote control, and they're moving this
right.
guy's lips,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
words are falling out.
Yeah.
But you're right. I heard from teammates that he's a great locker room guy.
Good personality,
had a sense of humor, which you would never think.
Never.
But okay.